The brand new 2023 Ibis DV9 just arrived at my shop, and today we're going to take a first look at it. So this is the new Ibis DV9. It's a 2023 model. I don't know if we're going to call it the DV9 V2. It's a totally different bike than the first one. Let's get it out of this box and talk about it. All right, so this new DV9 has some cool things going on. A short 425 mil chainstay, love that. I like that for cross country too. And the original DV9 was meant to be a NICA racer, like the bike that a kid could work a summer job, save up and get a killer high school XC race bike and still have fun on the trails as well. Well, XC race bikes are getting a lot more exciting these days. They're getting slacker. They're getting more playful. The seat angles are getting a little bit more steep, but they're still light. And that makes for a really fun combination. In fact, this genre of bike is my favorite kind of hardtail right now. I think where most people are wanting a hardtail, they're not going to be taking it on crazy stuff, and having a light build that's zippy and fast and sprints extremely well and does what a hardtail does best. I think this is going to appeal to a lot of people in this genre. I really like matte paint colors, and this looks really good. It's kind of a mocha gray, kind of gray and tan. I think it looks really good in person. I'm 5'6". I've got a 27.5 inseam, so I'm mostly torso. I went with a size medium, and Ibis has gotten a lot more modern on their size recommendations too. Like, they're recommending the medium up to 5'8", which is cool because on the last version they would have put me on a small, and now I'm almost sizing out of the medium. And these are getting a lot longer, and people are finding that you can still race XC quite competitively with fun trail geo. You don't have to have sketchy, twitchy, nervous handling bike to win XC races. And the XC courses are getting a lot more intense, so the slacker head angle is almost becoming a requirement. Still, I think a dropper, slacker head angle, 66.5 degree head angle, short chainstay, super light carbon frame. I think this is going to be a very fun bike for greens and blues. A lot of people buy way too much bike. They want an enduro bike, or they want to shred or hit the gnar. But really within, 15 minutes of their home, most of their stuff's blue or green trails. And they take their enduro bike on that, and it's just not that exciting. That's how I am. I've got a 150, 160 mil enduro full suspension. And even here in Sedona, I'm not riding it to its fullest, and a lot of times it's making intermediate trails boring. It just kind of erases the whole trail. Something like this aims to change that. The hardest job of being a bike reviewer is repackaging the bike when I'm done and remembering which of these go where and sending it back so it doesn't get scraped up. I'm not very good at that, but I'm trying to be better. And it's different because every company packages and boxes their bikes totally different, and what works for one company doesn't always work for the other. Ooh, I like this seat stay. That is beautiful. Kind of a wishbone in there. I'll show you. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to reuse this packaging material. When Pink Bike posted the press release on this, people were losing their minds about the kink in this top tube. I think it looks fine. Ibis is a type of bird, and I like that their bikes have kind of this swoopy look to them. I think people put way too much stock in the look of their bikes, and I think there's a interesting breed of people that buy their bikes based on looks alone. They don't care about geo charts, they don't care about ride feel, they don't care if it's the right bike for them. They just think it looks cool. And more power to you if that's you. I'm the exact opposite. I'd like a bike to look good, but I care that it rides really good, more importantly. I don't mind this. This means more standover height for smaller riders. I really like that, but we still got room for 2 water bottles in here. We do not have a 3-pack under here, but I think for its intended use, that's just fine. Oh, this is cool. So internal cable routing on everything, but it's got a nice little zip tie port right here for the brake where it pops out. I actually really, really like that. Nice integrated chainstay protector. These stays look nice and thin. The previous DV9 is quite stiff. My wife still has one. She takes it bike packing, and she sneaks away on a lot of my hardtails and says, man, I just can't believe how much softer your hardtails ride than my DV9. And we put a lot of miles on that DV9. It's a cool bike, and it's great for what it was, but I'm excited for the updates here. This finish, it shows scratches a little bit easier than some of the others. I like the matte finish, but there are a few like little rub marks from where the packaging was on this. They've got the new logo on here, and I think this blue, sky blue accent color looks killer on here. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like metal head badges, but they're heavier. And, you know, Ibis has been doing bikes for so long, they're allowed to change things up. They changed their logo up. Some people love it. Some people miss the old one. I don't really care too much. I like the old one because I've seen that my whole life, and that's what I'm used to. But change is good. If we didn't have change, we wouldn't have this new DV9 here. All right, one thing I'm noticing, it has integrated headset. That means there's no cups to press in. The bearings sit right on the carbon. That worries me. I've had a couple friends with brand new bikes where those weren't built perfectly and they couldn't get the headset tight. Now, they weren't Ibises, so I'm not saying that the Ibis is going to be that way. I just like that replaceable cup that you press in personally. It just feels like there's less to go wrong. When bearings seat right onto carbon, that worries me just a little bit. Ibis has been doing this a long time. Maybe it won't be a problem. And Ibis just announced a longer frame warranty, so we're excited about that. So we're seeing more and more of this these days where the bearings just sit right on the carbon frame. Makes me a little bit worried, but maybe I'm worrying for no legitimate reason. That is a short head tube. So this bike is still spec'd with a 120 mil fork. That's what I ran on the last one. But it's interesting to read on their website. It says fork compatible from 100 up to 140 mil. I'd be interested to see who's running a 140 mil fork on here, but it's rated for that. That's going to slacken it out a full degree, 65.5 degree. I think I'm going to like 120, maybe 130, but we'll see. I might have to get experimental on this. But I like that they know a lot of people over-fork their hardtails and you're not going to break the warranty. This is a very small head tube, so the stack's going to be low. And that's what you'd expect from a bike that could be raced in XC races. A lot of XC bikes, you're just a little more hunched over and a little over the front, especially when you're doing big climbs. That keeps your weight down and keeps it from wheeling. And that's where XC races are won, are on the climbs. So I'm not surprised to see that, but I think it's going to make the stack feel a little bit low. I might want to run some riser bars on here. We'll see. Ibis has done a lot of great things with the standards on this bike. This is one I would change, but that's just me. This does save weight though, and saves a part. I guess you don't need to pound cups in. A lot of XC race bikes have all these little weight saving things on them, and you can't blame them because that's pretty important for XC riding. Okay, that's cool. So even though the head tube's small, we've got one of the bigger spacers here to raise the bars a bit. I like that. Work less, ride more. Or in my case, work more, ride more. All right, cool. That went together real nicely. Ooh, this is going to be cool. So this is the GX build. I don't think it's super accurate to call this a GX build. We've got NX cranks, NX shifter, NX chain. We do have the GX derailleur, which I appreciate. They tend to be a little bit more durable than the NX. It does come with an XD driver, though, which is cool, which means you're getting the better cassette and you can upgrade to all the other SRAM stuff, all the other Eagle stuff with that without having to change out your driver on your hub. Man, I'm excited about this. Currently, my favorite bike in this category is the Spot Rocker. I love that thing. It's exciting, it's energetic. It's zippy, but it's still fun on the trail. It's not like full-on XC. And I think this bike is going to challenge that rocker quite a bit. I think they're going to go head-to-head, and it'll be interesting to see which one I prefer. This has noticeably shorter chainstays, even a little bit slacker head angle on this. As long as this doesn't ride super, super stiff, man, looking at this on paper, I think I'm going to prefer this Ibis, which is saying a lot because that Spot has held the top spot in my lightweight trail ripper for, oh man, at least 2 years now. Love that thing. He's got competition. Watch out, Spot. Oh, these graphics, I think they look really great. I was so tempted to go with the purple one, and I think the purple one would have been cool too. It's just a dark purple and high gloss, and I didn't think it'd film very well. I thought this gray one would film a little better. Yeah, Stepcast 34. This is one of my favorite forks, and I like these performance ones with the Grip 1 damper. It's the lowest end Stepcast 34, and I love it. It's wonderful on hardtails. I don't find I need all the high speed and low speed compression and rebound adjusting. This damper is fantastic, and I don't feel like I need to upgrade this at all. So we got 4-piston SRAM G2 brakes, Ibis bar and stem, Ibis grips, KS Lev dropper with the WTB Volt saddle. Now, I need to mention the price of this bike because price is important, but anytime I mention price in a video, it changes. So if you're watching this 2 years later after I posted this, I'm sure the price will be different. At the time of filming, the GX, which is really an NX build with a GX derailleur and cassette, is $3,499. And a lot of people are saying, what, for a hardtail? This is a carbon hardtail. It's lightweight. There's not a lot of other hardtails in this class that are aggressive enough to be ridden on trails, but light and zippy enough to be ridden in XC races. It's a really exciting category, and there's not a whole lot of competition in there. But yes, bikes have gotten way more expensive than when the DV9 first came out. So has food, so has gasoline. Everything's getting more expensive. So this is not going to be your entry level, first time hardtail, probably not. But many of my viewers fit into this category of people who are at a position in life where they can buy a great bike and they want to buy the best thing for what it does. And for ripping around smoother, flowier trails, a hardtail is flat out better than a full suspension. And so would you pay more for this than some full suspensions? I would if the terrain warranted it. If my terrain's choppy and chunky, a full suspension is probably going to be a better choice for most people. But don't look at hardtails as a step down from full suspension or what you buy when you can't afford a full suspension. For a lot of us, we prefer hardtails and we're willing to spend a little bit more money to get a great hardtail. That said, for the price, I don't feel like this is a super great bargain, but they're sensible parts and I don't feel like anything on here needs to be upgraded. NX cranks are just fine. It's actually a pretty sensible way to do it. I don't know, I just think calling it a GX build might be a little bit misleading to some people. A lot of the bikes I review on this channel fit in this price range between $3,000 and $5,000. And there are some really exciting hardtails in there. I wish there was a super budget version that a teenager could still afford, but it is what it is, and this is the state of the industry right now. And if you're a teenager looking for a race bike, go buy used. There's tons of great used bikes at good deals out there. If you need help shopping used bikes, or if you need advice on which bike is best for you, I do that over on Patreon. A lot of people don't know this, but my Patreon service includes used bikes. A lot of times we can find some bikes 1, 2, 3 years old that are a great fit for your budget that are better than buying a brand new bike. And so if you want help navigating that, if you don't know your stuff and your specs and geo, you can really get taken when you buy used bikes. And so having someone like me that's experienced, that's been around all of these his whole life, help you navigate those waters of used bikes, I'm happy to do that over on Patreon, and new as well. So if you're trying to decide between 3 or 4 different hardtails, become a patron. There's a good chance I've ridden them, and we can compare them, and I can tell you the pros and cons of each one and which one I think would be a good fit for you and which one wouldn't. So on these first looks, this is all assumption. We're just taking a look at it. We're assuming how it's going to ride. That spot rocker should be a little bit worried because this thing on paper and in front of me looks like it could dethrone that spot as my favorite zippy trail hardtail that you could still race XC on the weekends. This has a UDH, Universal Derailleur Hanger, and you can actually order it with the SRAM transmission if you want. Ibis claims this will fit a 29x26. Let's see. I'm kind of cheating. This is a 29x26 on a 40i rim, so it's even bigger than most 26s. Oh my goodness. If this fits, holy cow, it doesn't just fit, it fits. My goodness. We got well over a centimeter of clearance everywhere. Take a look at this. I can fit my finger in there. We got a full centimeter there and even more up here. Man, tons of clearance for 2.6. Ha! Look what they did. They did what I did on the Maniac. They shifted the seat tube forward of the bottom bracket. I'd love to take credit for that idea, but I'm sure the designers weren't watching my channel. But That is the secret to future hardtails. I'm pretty excited about this. My brain's thinking, how on earth is this a 425 mil chainstay with a 29 by 2.6 with this much space in here? And then I took a closer look at the seat tube, and they've done exactly what I did on the Binary Maniac. I hope all hardtail people do this. There's no reason not to. With our steeper seat angles, why aren't we just moving the seat tube forward of the bottom bracket? Then we get all this clearance in here, and we can still keep a short rear end. Bravo, Ibis. Very well done. Man, can I fit a 3.0 in there? That would be stupid to try, but let's try. All right, there's no way this fits, but we've just got to, for the sake of science, see what happens when we put a 29 by 3.0 in here on a 45i rim. Ibis does not claim that it can do that. And bravo, Ibis. This truly fits a 29 by 2.6. No problem, with plenty of mud clearance even. No way. It's not rubbing. It's too close for comfort, but it's not rubbing. Holy cow. And look, there's even space up here. Wow. We've only got about 3 mil clearance in there. Up top, there's plenty. 3.0s are so big. You could fit 29 by 2.8s in there if you wanted. You know, this is so close. Sure, you could ride it, especially on pavement, but when you're carving hard, you're going to flex those stays enough to get it to rub. Wow, that's cool, though. This is a really big deal. I know it doesn't seem like it to you guys, but Ibis totally under-promised and over-delivered. 2.6s all day long, no problem. And that design of shifting that seat tube forward, genius. I hope we see more and more and more bikes. To date, I think Noli's doing one, my Binary Maniac, and the DV9. Those are the only two hardtails I've seen that on. I don't know why more people don't do it. It just makes perfect sense. So this has Ibis's home brand Blackbird hubs on it. The engagements leaves a lot to be desired if you're used to high-end hubs. And we're running the Ibis 933 rim on these wheels. This is a 29i rim, which will work well, in my opinion, up to 2.4s. If you're going to go 2.6s, I think their S35 rim is a much better choice. But this is their budget wheel set that comes on the GX build. So I'm not expecting to be blown away by this wheel set. I've ridden a lot of Ibis's wheel sets. I actually really like the ride feel of their S35s. I just wish there was a way to swap out the pawls in their hub to get a higher engagement. On full suspension bikes, high engagement isn't always the best thing. Sometimes it can give you more pedal kickback. But on hardtails, there's absolutely no reason not to go with a high engagement hub. A high engagement hub just has so many performance benefits. So the higher end builds are going to have nicer wheels with higher engagement, but this is the entry level build. Oh, that's looking good. Like Ibis's other wheels, these are asymmetrical, which means these spokes do not enter the center of the rim. They're offset to one side to keep the spoke tension even on both sides. I think it's cool that they do that. Cool, their little Blackbird logo looks good. Yeah, what I'd probably do if this were my bike is end up throwing on a higher engaging hub, a DT 350 with a 54 tooth, or an Onyx would be ideal. But maybe it won't bother me at all. I just know here in Sedona I really like high engagement hubs, but no entry-level bike comes with a high engagement hub. That's just the way it is. Trek seems to be the only company offering high engagement hubs on their sub $3,000 bikes with the Roscoe 8 and Roscoe 9. I've always been an SPD man since 1996 when I started riding. And Crank Brothers sent me some of these Mallet E pedals to try. And honestly, these have been sitting on my shelf for a month because I've been too nervous. I don't know why. I was just like, man, what if I can't clip out? Or what if it's totally different? And I've got a ride or two on these, and I really like them. I'll talk more about them in another video, but I'm liking the way the Crank Brothers pedals feel. All right, we got her all built up. This came in at 25.4 pounds with these heavy Mallet E pedals. That is seriously impressive. That is lighter than my Spot Rocker, pretty close to that Cannondale Scalpel that I reviewed. And this is the entry-level build. So is $3,500 a lot for a hardtail? Yes, sort of, but not in this genre. Mountain biking is getting extremely expensive. It was expensive before, but it's getting even more expensive, and so is life. This is a $3,500 hardtail. I think we need to stop thinking about this like the first DV9, which was meant to be under $2,000 entry-level carbon bike for high school kids. The weight this came in, this thing packs a serious punch. Being able to fit the big tires, having the short chain stays, hitting that weight for that price is incredibly remarkable. Yes, I'll bet some of you have a hardtail that's even lighter that costs you less. I'll bet it doesn't have a dropper. I'll bet it doesn't have this geometry, and I'll bet it's not running a 120 mil fork with tubeless tires with 2.4s with room for 2.6s and beyond. If so, I'd love to hear about it. But this comes in $700 cheaper than the cheapest spot rocker, and it's lighter. So I would say it's definitely going after that spot rocker spot for the zippy, energetic, enthusiastic hardtail. This does not feel so much like an entry-level, get hooked on the sport with this hardtail. This feels like a premium trail bike for people who love hardtails, not for people who can't afford a full suspension, so they settle on a hardtail. This is priced and built for the people that know what they're doing, the discerning rider that's going after a specific ride feel that a full suspension cannot duplicate. And that's what I love about hardtails, especially in this genre. They do something that full suspensions can't. The sprinting, the carving, the cornering, the just connecting with the trail and feeling one with the trail is something I can't get out of a full suspension. And that's where these bikes get really magical. And I love seeing modern trail geometry on a super light bike. We're going to be seeing more and more of these through the years. Hardtail geometry is finally getting where it's fun just about everywhere. On my wife's DV9, on the first gen, we put a negative 1.5 degree angle set from Works Components to slacken it out to about this head angle. And I'd like to think that Ibis saw that and said, maybe we should try that. We loved it. My wife would be so mad if I took that slacker out and put it back to stock. I'm thrilled to see the better standover, thrilled to see the 2 water bottles in here. I love seeing that forward shifted seat tube. That is so cool. I can't even tell you how cool that is. And how cool is it that we also, just like the Spot Rocker, have water bottle bosses here that don't interrupt with the dropper. So you could run a really long dropper on this thing. Ibis is paying attention on their hardtails. A lot of other companies, the hardtail kind of feels like the forgotten child that they throw the intern on. They're like, oh, you want to work here? Design the hardtail, because no one cares about those. That was not the case with this. Whoever designed this, bravo. So many innovative things that the average rider wouldn't pick up on. This forward shifted seat tube, the clearance for 2.6s, it's got a 55 mil chain line. So they pushed the chain line out a little bit to clear those tires to be able to fit the big tires, but they still kept that short rear end, slackened out the head angle. Man, and they rated it up to a 140 fork. I'm curious, would any of you be interested in a bike like this? Throwing a 140 fork on it would put it at 65.5 degree head angle. That could be a bit more of a shredder. It's going to raise the bottom bracket a little bit, but that could be really interesting. I am seriously impressed at the weight of this with, heavier NX cranks, these heavier Crank Brother pedals. The wheels aren't heavy, but they're not like, I don't know, most bikes under 26 pounds have pretty high-end carbon, bars and wheels to get it at that weight. This could get even lighter with a few core changes. Wow, good job, Ibis. All right, let's throw this thing on the geometer, see what the actual geo numbers measure out to. All right, let's get nerdy. This is the geometer, the device I built to measure geometry of bikes. Rear center, oh my goodness, 422. Actual chain stay, 425 on the money. Nice job, Ibis. Seat tube length, 408. Super low. You got this low standover. You can run really tall droppers. I could probably run a 175 in here. Nice job, Ibis. All right, reach, 432. Pretty close to their geo chart. Front center, 722. Wheelbase, 1142. So the wheelbase is fairly compact, which is what you want for a single track carver, especially at speeds under 20 miles an hour. For climbing, for descending, switchbacks, a shorter wheelbase just weaves through things a little bit better. As bikes get longer, especially in the rear end, it tracks really well and it links up big sweeping corners really well. but you lose some of that agility that you get with a short wheelbase going in and out of things. A lot of people size down for a more playful ride, they say. And what they don't realize is it's more the wheelbase that they're feeling than the reach difference. So that's kind of interesting. Bottom bracket drop is 67 mil, low bottom bracket. That should feel very planted, but couple that with the short rear end, it should still be able to play manual wheelie, goof around a little bit. Ooh, I'm excited for this thing. This thing looks amazing. Let's check out the stack. The stack comes in at 622. All right. So far, Ibis's geo chart has been right on the money within a couple millimeters of my measurements. That's awesome. Let's see head angle. Now I measure head angle at the stanchions. That's slightly different than at the steer tube, but this is what I do for all my bikes. 66.7. All right, now we're gonna measure effective seat tube angle because the actual is different because it's forward shifted of the bottom bracket. 75.3. I think this thing's gonna do what it's meant to do extremely well, which is bob and weave through things, sprint, put down power. I think this would make a super fun single speed. I am extremely excited for this geometry. I haven't been this excited for a hardtail in a long time. There's so much good stuff going on here. First of all, the weight. Second of all, that seat tube shifted forward to provide all this clearance. Third, room for water bottle bosses that don't interfere with the seat tube. Fourth, great standover. Fifth, short seat tube so you can run long droppers and it won't have that interference. Sixth, I'm not a huge fan of internal cable routing, especially brake routing, but it's here to stay, and Ibis has done a great job on it. The old ones they were not tube and tube. I don't think these are tube and tube either, and the cable would rattle in there, so I'm going to be listening for that on the ride review to see if I get any cable slap in there. That said, where they exit is beautifully done. I especially like the rear brake. It's funny, this bike can fit a 203 rotor in the rear. Man, I mean, why not do that? Why not just build your bike to handle crazy experiments? But so many companies don't. And so I'm going to be fine with the 180 front and rear, but it's cool to know you can go bigger and not hurt this thing. With the step cast forks, the new ones, the step is on the inside of the fork, and they didn't make the step big enough to fit a bigger rotor than 180. So you're limited to 180 on the front with this fork. I kind of like the old step cast a little better for that reason, but these new ones are lighter, and I love this Grip 1 damper. I'm probably the only person you'll ever hear say that. I think these dampers are fantastic. The cassette and the derailleur are both GX, which is a good thing. We've still got an XD driver on here, which means you can upgrade to the higher end SRAM stuff without swapping out your driver. I really like the G2 brakes. I think they're fantastic trail brake. The NX cranks, not a deal breaker for me. They feel fine. Yeah, they're maybe heavier than some others, but they're just fine. So I would have loved to see a GX shifter on here at the price point. KS Lev, I've had reliability issues with them in the past, but man, this bike has so much good stuff going for it. I would love it if this came in closer to $3,000, but those times are gone, and I still think they've got an amazing machine here. The kink in the top tube doesn't bother me one bit. I love that it helps riders, change different sizes. You can size up or size down without having the seat tube length and standover be an issue. I love that this helps smaller riders, especially women, be able to feel more comfortable getting on and off the bike without any issues. Let's talk about a couple other amazing things they've done. They've avoided the through the headset cable routing. Thank you. They've got a threaded bottom bracket. They've got a 31.6 dropper, boost spacing, all of the good standards and none of that garbage that's coming up now. It's also got a post mount rear brake. I'm so glad they didn't go flat mount. The person who's in charge of designing this model, the project manager of the DV9, bravo. Super thrilled with what you put together here. This is a modern trail hardtail. Man, Ibis, you've knocked it out of the park. I want to hear what you guys think. Is this the type of bike you're interested in? What are your favorite features about it? Where would you ride this? And would you run it with a 100 to a 140 mil fork? What length fork would you ride? I'm super excited to get this thing on the trail and review it. If you guys want to pick my brain on bikes, become a patron today. Thanks for watching. There's a party in the mountains, and you're invited.